HR Famous is brought to you by HRU Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than HRU Tech. Find them online at hrutech.com and call them today. HR Famous is also brought to you by Kinetics, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies, named by HRO Today as the top midsize RPO provider. Kinetics uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetics a call. Find them online at kineticshr.com.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Sackett. Welcome back with another episode of HR Famous. I'm here with my good friend Jessica Lee. No Chris Dunn. He's in COVID protocols. Isn't that funny? We talk about COVID protocols. Chris is sick. He could come on, but like his voice is kind of raspy and gone. He just felt it was better if Jessica and I just do it ourselves. Jessica, how are you?
I'm good. But, with his voice being raspy, like, it's not like we haven't heard that before. He could do an Elizabeth Holmes or Dikembe Mutombo impersonation.
He probably could do better impressions.
It would be, fun. He would be Mutombo the whole episode, which I would just love.
I just texted him before we got on, and he was actually quarantining down at his vacation or lake house. And so he's like, he knew, like, with kind of bad lake Wi-Fi, he was like, I don't even want to chance it. Like, let's not. So otherwise he probably would have came on.
Do you sound like this? Oh no, you texted him, so you didn't hear him.
I didn't get to hear that. By the way, that's a really good. I thought something went wrong with your connection for a minute because you did so good.
No, I've just been practicing my Mutombo voice because I keep watching videos. Just, it's too much fun. I'm obsessed now with Mutombo's voice.
It literally is a cookie monster, right? It's so funny.
Yeah, my kids have nightmares now because I just, I talk like this all the time.
You should get one of those voice changers, and then everybody would have fun with that. Jay, before we got on, I have to be honest. I was going into the bathroom. I'm in my office. We're back at kind of a hybrid office kind of thing, and there was somebody in there, and of course, you have to acknowledge the person. But then they go on and start having a conversation with me as I'm standing there at the urinal going to the bathroom. And there's a part of me that goes, okay, this is awkward. But then there's another part of me that goes, it would be more awkward if I didn't acknowledge, right, them. So I don't know what's more awkward, having the conversation or not having the conversation.
I don't know either, but also part of it is there's one thing to have a conversation with someone in the bathroom, but also so one, do you acknowledge? Two, do you have a conversation? For me, the even bigger thing is, and this is probably harder for men and more relevant to men, is also do you make eye contact with each other while you're talking? I feel like the restroom is the type of place where it's not even no, let's not make eye contact. You can just say, what's up?
So there is a kind of a thing, especially with dudes standing at the urinals, you're kind of looking straight forward anyways. Now you're looking at a wall, unless you're in a bar or restaurant where they have some advertisement or something there, right? Which would be helpful. The hard part is if you look over, you have to not look down. You can't look down.
Yeah.
There's always that risk. And so most guys I think would just look straight forward and go, yeah, not going to happen. Not going to do that.
The whole bathroom thing, I don't know. You have to acknowledge each other. I'm not sure about having a conversation. And the dangerous thing about conversations in bathrooms is also if you're in a stall, I can't believe we're talking about this. Who else? You don't know who else is there. And being in HR, you got to keep those conversations real kosher. You just don't know you don't know who's coming in. You don't know who else is in there. Well, you know what else is kind of potentially awkward in situations like this. So, more and more we're seeing genderless bathrooms come about. I'm totally open for it, but it does just introduce a different dynamic in terms of
sure.
what happens in the restroom. And, we had an episode that never aired. Did we air this one? I don't remember, about periods in the workplace. And this was like another one where it's like,
it's the lost episode. We never did that.
This is the lost episode. So we're giving people a little glimpse into the lost episode around, for me, I'm like, we should normalize that women have this, function that happens in their life, but to go into a shared restroom with other genders, you have to normalize the thing even a bit more, because things happen. But anyways, I had an experience once where I was going into, I didn't know it was going to be a genderless bathroom, but it just so happened myself and this other person, we were like, oh, we both had to go to the restroom, and we were visiting someone's office, and they were like, oh, it's just down the hall. So we're both going down the hall. And then we're like, oh, we're literally going to the same place. And like, we were just chit-chatting on the way to the bathroom. And then we got there. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we stopped chit-chatting and we just resume our conversation when we're here at the trough washing our hands. And yes, the whole thing of like, are we supposed to talk to each other? How much do we talk to each other about is that's quite the dilemma. I'm not sure.
It has changed like office design, because like if you think genderless, every genderless bathroom I've been in has been like full kind of closet, kind of like closed off, right?
Like a single.
It's not like open.
Use.
Yeah, it's not open stalls, which I think would just be super awkward if someone tried to turn a regular bathroom into a genderless bathroom. So let's hope. Like, I have yet to be in one where I'm like, "Hey Jay, can you hand me some toilet paper? I'm out over here." That would be really, really awkward.
Speaking of restrooms, this is like the most classy episode ever. But speaking of restrooms and signage in restrooms, I don't know if you've seen it, but what I really love is, they've got the icons for male or female that are very common outside of restrooms. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen this, that people have kind of redesigned the female icon to say the woman is not wearing a dress. You see the icon and silhouette, and it looks like she's wearing a dress, but she's wearing a cape. And I just have always thought, like, that's so cool. That's right. Yes, I'm wearing a cape. I'm not wearing a dress. It's a cape I have on.
Yeah. I do like that as well. So Jay, you're a mom. You've done a lot of working from home over the last couple of years. Are you the kind of mom where the kids just walk in on you when you're going to the bathroom?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I try to lock the doors sometimes because I just don't want to be bothered. Like, you and I both are playing Wordle right now. Like,
yes.
We should talk about Wordle all day today.
I know.
For this episode. But like, my kids want to help me solve the Wordle. And I kid you not, I've actually gone into the bathroom. I don't even have to go to the bathroom. I just go into the bathroom and lock the door so that no one
I can concentrate on my Wordle.
So I can do Wordle by myself without other people trying to guess for me. So I try to not like lock the door now, because I'm like, I need some alone time. Can I have some privacy, people?
Yeah, but I think that's like, we have so many people that have worked for home for so long. You come back and you lose your kind of bathroom etiquette when it comes to, like going back into the workplace versus what you have at home. Like, I think mine's pretty similar. Like, my wife is, the kind of woman that would be like, you do not come into the bathroom if I'm in the bathroom. Like, that's just never been a part of our relationship that she didn't want to share. Now, again, I could care less. Now, the kids, though, at any point, and we have 3 boys, I mean, her whole life was spent basically trying to go to the restroom without some boy in her stuff, trying to figure out what's going on.
These children will not leave you alone. They won't leave you alone. And even when you lock the door, mine are little enough where, like, you'll see a hand creeping underneath the door because they're like, "Are you in there? What are you doing?"
Question.
Like, yes, like, "Hello, I'm trying to talk to you." I'm like, "Yeah, I see your fingers coming under the door, but I'm not trying to acknowledge you." Also, related back to like the restrooms and conversations at work, I will say, like, well, now I'm giving away all my secrets, but like, if there is a single-use restroom, like, I will go to those because I'm like, I don't want to run into. I just want to, be in peace and go play Wordle in the bathroom. So sometimes that single-use restroom is, that's what it's made for.
I think every organization should have to maybe that'll be some other government regulation, 10 years from now, where everyone's going to have just genderless kind of constructed bathrooms, which maybe in the long run will be a better, thing for everybody. So you brought up Wordle. We have to hit on Wordle now. So we have to talk about that, because so everybody knows how high performing type A you are. When we started our text conversation about Wordle, you immediately went to strategy. and thinking of the right exact first word, second word to use to knock out all the vowels and knock out all the like high level letters, so you can make sure. And so far, I don't know how many days you've played. Probably 5 or 6 each of us have, right?
5 or 6.
New on it. One day I failed. That's been the only day I failed. I don't think you've failed yet, right? You've gotten everyone.
No, there's always today though. I haven't tackled it today.
There's always today. So you want to share some of your strategy? You did the strategy from Scrabble, right?
Well, I'm horrible at Scrabble is what I would share. Like common 5-letter words, great, but Scrabble, I'm not great at it. So I'm just using a Wheel of Fortune strategy where you get to that final round, the RSTLNE. I like those as like common letters. And so I try to like do words where it's like one letter, 2 vowels, like a range of letters, 2 vowels, 1 to 2 vowels. I made the mistake the very first time I played because I really wasn't like tracking what the deal was. My first word was hello, and I was like, oh, in hindsight, horrible choice. Like I'm using 2 letters and like 2 spaces.
You never do that.
Not a good idea.
You know that. So far, though, like every word I've had hasn't had 2 of the same letter in it. I think that's going to screw me up when it happens, because one time I think like O was the second letter, and I thought like the word could have been something like, with 2 O's in it, and I did it and I didn't get it, and then I felt stupid for doing it. But then I'm like, I'm going to feel stupid the time I don't get it, and it's like, oh, it's booty, or something. Who knows?
Booty, yes. Well, that's 5 letters. Could very well be booty. Everything, I'm like, what's 5 letters? Every time I hear or read a 5-letter word, I'm like, I'm going to mark that down as a potential word.
It's funny too, because like every person that I've had, like I've told about, like, are you playing Wordle or whatever? And they look it up and they're just kind of like, no. And then immediately you get addicted and get hooked, even though it's once a day. And like our friend of HR Famous, like Dawn Burke, is like, I want to do it more than once a day. And you're like, nope. That's like to me, that's some of the joy of it is it's just once a day, and then you're
however, Dawn, we will be getting the offer for, you want to play more than once a day, pay $5 a month or whatever. They're going to start charging us. Yes.
I know. Yeah. That's going to happen. But I think I'll stick with just the once a day. That's about all the capacity I have anyways.
You'll just wait and see. I don't know. They're going to give us more than once a day. They're going to start introducing 6-letter words, 7-letter words. And then we're just going to be on Wordle all day, hiding in the bathroom, playing it.
Do you think it you and I we have a lot of friends on Twitter or Instagram, all the social channels, and they share their Wordle map, right? As kind of a strange flex. Don't you think it's a strange flex? Like, because you got it like in 4 steps or 5 steps. Like, I mean, when we do it as friends, I think it's just like, hey, I got it today. Right. And it took me whatever. But I'm like, are you really smarter than somebody because you got it in 3 versus 4 or 5? Like, I don't know. But it's a super strange
flex. Yes. I mean, and I'm sure some of them are cheating. Part of the reason why I share is like, I'm like, Chris Dunn, when are you going to start playing? I'm like sharing it to like get you in, like, come on, we're playing, get in, let's go. What is he doing in this COVID isolation period? He should be playing Wordle. Like he could be.
Well, he's a voracious reader. Right. And then, I'm going to share the news. You and I both know this, but like the public doesn't. It's, he actually finished his 2nd book and got it to the publisher.
Amazing.
So sometime, hopefully at Sherm Annual this year, he'll have the 2nd book launched, which is really incredible. Best boss ever is the topic, right?
Yeah, but who's writing the foreword? Are we arm wrestling over this? Like,
no, he already promised me, so he's going to have to break a promise if that's the case.
He promised you. I thought I won. I thought I won recently.
He didn't tell you that?
Well, I really didn't think I was going to get it.
Yeah, no, that was good. I didn't, like, he wrote the foreword for my first book, and then I was going to do the same thing for him. And then Sherm came back and said, hey, like, you guys probably shouldn't do that. Which in hindsight, we were both like, it didn't make a difference, right? That was dumb.
No, I mean, the reality, who reads it? No, I mean, I don't.
Exactly.
I skip the forward. I never read the epilogue. I never read the acknowledgement. I only, when there were
read Chris's forward for my book though, because Chris, and it was really good. And then for me, I had fun with the epilogue because it was more of a blog post for me than anything, right? So like to me, those are the first, like those are the two of the favorite parts of my book are the foreword and the epilogue.
Those are your favorite parts. It does remind me though, we're never going to get to like work topics. Like back in the day when we bought CDs, I did always love reading like the CD liner and the acknowledgments. Yeah. Like there's some nostalgia there in that.
Yeah. Well, no, and like, again, some more inside stuff on Chris's book. One of the things that we love was a book called Book of Basketball, which was written by Bill Simmons, and it has a ton of footnotes. So like you'll make a reference, like a pop culture reference in a paragraph, and then you come down and explain it in the footnotes, which we love that. And so Chris did a bunch of that. I'm trying to do that in the foreword as well, where I'm having some of those footnotes in there. So we can, again, it's kind of inside baseball, but giving the inside baseball stuff, right? So it's like telling people, hey, here's what I mean by that, or here's why I said that from that standpoint.
You guys are so prolific. It's just shocking to me sometimes. Yeah. But those footnotes, I recently finished a book, Educated, which is a memoir. It was like a bestseller, book really in 2020, but I'm late to reading it. But I just thought it was interesting the way people use footnotes now, like as a way to like clarify or describe, like, and I just put some, like, why not just write it into the book itself? But I don't know if that's like a publishing thing where they want to use footnotes in a particular way, but I like the footnotes.
Yeah, part of this, do you think maybe some of this is because of like the whole, like, kind of social justice movement and stuff like that we in cancel kind of cultures that we have to kind of explain ourselves sometimes to to stop somebody from canceling you going, no, I said this, but this is what I mean. But but from a readership standpoint or a writing standpoint, it actually sounds better if I write it this way. Like almost like you have to explain yourself constantly,
Extra context all the time.
I did. Like, I love a line from the movie The Jerk, which is, it starts off where he goes, I was raised a poor black child. I think that's so hilarious because he's a white dude, right? And then people will get offended by that. Younger people that have no idea about the movie. And also the fact of why he said it was, he was actually raised by a black poor family, right? And so he was actually saying like, I was raised a poor black child, even though I'm a white dude or a white kid, that's how I was raised. And I just think that's so funny because of the context of the movie. And then some people, I've said that to people, like they've said, hey, what's your introduction? And I always want to start out with like Tim Sackett was raised a poor black child. No one gets it anymore because it was a movie from like the late 70s or early 80s or something. And so you can't say it because it'd be like canceled. You're appropriating whatever, poor black culture. I don't know. Like, stop it. And I'm like, oh, that's not what I meant. I need a footnote on my intro.
You need a footnote.
Leading a growing business, it's like building a plane while flying it. Team building, decision-making, and scaling all at once. At CPO Playbook, we get it. That's why our podcast, ranked in the top 10% worldwide, tackles the toughest leadership challenges with insights to help you lead smarter and grow faster. Tune into the CPO Playbook podcast because leadership doesn't come with a manual, but we're pretty close.
So we were trying to talk about like different topics, and we have obviously a lot of them. One of the ones that, and I'd sent you guys this article that I found. Is that Chris trying to break in to our conversation?
He's like saying, hello, I'm ready.
I know you guys are talking about me. And so one of the things that I found was Harvard Business Review, which all of us read from time to time, put out their list of the top 3 most read articles of 2021. And the very top one, number 1, was don't let your employees pick their work from home days, in which we were all like fascinated with, because it's one of those things where we know that obviously people love and are very passionate about work from home and hybrid and the flexibility. But this article was really more about the realities of trying to make it successful long-term. Like, instead of just like, hey, it's a crisis, we have to send some people home to work. Now we want you back in the office. How do we sustain this from an executive standpoint in terms of making it success? And he had a couple of really good reasons why you wouldn't let somebody choose their own day. And I'll go through them. One is called mixed mode, which is this, we've all been in these meetings where you have 5 people in the office and then you have 3 people that are working from home. And so it's mixed mode, right? Knowing that all of a sudden the 3 people that are on the Zoom call are looking at, the 5 people, and they can't hear the one person talking across the table to the other person. And then you shut the call down, knowing those 5 people, especially in a really controversial kind of topic, are going to have the meeting after the meeting without you there.
Yeah.
He's like, so that's why you would say, nope, if we're all going to be in the office, we're all going to be in the office. If we're all going to work from home, we're all going to work from home, so that was the number one. The other one was database, this is a big diversity issue. We know from data in studies that right now, those who would choose to work from home are way more diverse from a gender standpoint, working moms, poor, because, it just costs them more money to commute and come in. So if you can work from home, that's better for you financially. And so he's like, and then what we also know is that those who work from home are 50% less likely to get promoted than somebody's in the office. Well, if a greater proportion of your people working from home are diverse and they're half as likely to get promoted, you have a diversity issue, right? So he's like, so again, the way to solve that is everybody comes into the office on certain days, everybody works from home on certain days. Now, the other side of this, and then I want you and I to have this conversation, which is, he said, one of the issues of this is ultimately it could be an office space issue. If we think about hybrid work and all of this stuff, it was partly kind of based on reducing your office footprint. But yet if you do it like he's saying, that's problematic. You're going to have everybody at home Mondays and Fridays, and then everybody in the office Tuesday, Wednesday. So you need the exact same size of office. It's just going to be empty 2 days a week kind of thing. So yeah. Jay, what do you think about that concept of not allowing people to choose their work from home days?
Well, so I think that like on a really practical level, one of the things I've observed is that like when you're letting people choose, and you want to treat people like adults and like let people have the freedom, like that's an important part of it. But something that I have observed that happens on a very practical matter is you have that freedom, you choose to go in. But what if you go in and no one else is there that day? It defeats the whole purpose of like why you're going in. And that's actually a very simple thing, but I hear it all the time from people like, well, I'm only going to go in if you're going in. Like, I'm not going to go in to be there by myself. And so that level of freedom like makes it logistically challenging. And it's a very simple thing, but it's one of the biggest reasons why people want to go in. They want to see other people. So I think like designating days like by teams or, whatever the criteria is actually is helpful so that like when you're going to be around other people, because otherwise like you don't want to just go and sit in your office by yourself or sit in a cube by yourself. So I feel like, when you have a big company or like a big team, there's probably ways to say this group's going to like have certain meetings in person on this day, and you stagger it so that you're not having to deal with a full parking lot or everyone, not having enough space to be able to work. The other thing is like in letting people choose. Something that I've also experienced is there's some meetings that I do want to have in person, and like let's just say if I'm going to have a one-on-one with my boss, I'd rather sit in person with him and like have my one-on-one. Sure. And so if I see my one-on-one on the calendar, like we text each other, like, "Are you going to be in tomorrow? Okay, I'm going to come in." Yeah. And so it's like, why? Like there's also just like we're wasting time trying to figure out like the norms of like who's going to be in, am I going to be in, what do I do? Yes. So I do hope that like Microsoft, I'm sure they're working on it, will like come up with some way for you to flag your calendar to say I'm in or I'm planning to be in these days versus I'm out and I'm going to be remote. But just very practical reasons, like it's driving me crazy. We're going to be in person to be with each other, and we should just know.
You bring up a great feature for somebody to be able to, and I'm sure there's ways like to work around to make that happen in your Outlook or whatever, but like it would be great if I it's like, hey, I'm going to set up a meeting with Jessica on Wednesday at 1:00, and it tells me, yeah, you can do this, but it's going to be virtual, or yeah, you can do it. You can choose now to be virtual or in person because she's in the office. Like that would be a much better and more effective way, right, for us to know kind of that.
It's color coding. Article, like you should just.
It's color coding. Yeah.
Like, come on, Microsoft.
Some of it's probably. But it's understanding what the color stuff would be, right? For us personally, we can color code our calendars, but somebody else being able to see that and sharing that might be a little bit different. The team-based versus centralized kind of work from home was one of the concepts they brought up. Like, obviously, central is like, hey, as an organization, this is just what it's going to be. And he also said, like, every study shows that for the most part, I mean, everybody wants Mondays and Fridays, work from home. Very few people are going like, I want Thursday, those are the outliers. For the vast majority want Mondays and Fridays. So if you actually like met, like Jessica, you met with your team and you guys decided as a team, this is when we're doing this, is much more effective than the company just going, hey, everybody, we're going to work from home on Fridays. That's just the way it's going to be. He said both companies use both routes, but like when you do the team approach, it really allows the team to feel like they've had some say, right?
Yeah.
For those people who like need very specific days, and maybe there's a compromise that takes place where you go, oh, okay, well, Wednesdays, like here in Michigan, a lot of public schools, like the first Wednesday or the third Wednesday, whatever, one Wednesday of the month, they do the teacher kind of in-service training. And so it's a pretty consistent thing where it'd be like, oh, the third Wednesday, kids have a half day. So they go in the morning, but they're off in the afternoon. Well, if your team knew that, they could say, hey, Wednesdays or afternoons are going to be work from home because we just have all these childcare issues, right? That are like, kind of weird from that, which is a great example. One of the cautions they had was they called it unraveling. Executives tend to say, okay, we're going to work from home Mondays and Fridays. And then Jessica, being the high performer she is, yeah, I'm just going to come in on Mondays, but I'm not going to tell my team. And then somebody notices or sees or hears, and then your number two comes in on Mondays. And then all of a sudden it starts to unravel, right? Where instead of feeling like they can work from home or they should work from home, they're like, oh, well, the high performers are coming in on Mondays. And so and the executives are really notorious for unraveling these kinds of things, and not on purpose, but they just feel like, oh, I just need to be in the office. Or that one week I had that meeting, and then all of a sudden they start scheduling meetings, every week for that same day that they shouldn't be in the office.
It's so crazy that we're like 2 years in and we still haven't figured out some of this stuff. Like, it's so wild to me, but like, I'm glad we're like learning as we go, I guess, and that we'll just keep pivoting and flexing. But it is really bizarre to me that even for myself, I'm like, oh, I haven't figured out how to do this. I don't want to lose the point you made, though. That's really important around, potential issues related to diversity or for certain populations, to get lost or fall behind as a result of it. So I do think that like it's so important for that conversation to be had and for people to be open and like aware that like, you got to look at the data like before you make these decisions and really see the downstream, and then be ready to like pivot and say like, okay, well, maybe that original approach isn't working. Like we wanted everyone to be grown-ups and decide for themselves, but like, look how it's bearing out. So I love that there's like data behind a lot of this. It's cool.
Well, it is a little like, naive of us to think like, oh, just treat people like adults and let them come and go when it's best for them, when we know that there's these issues. And if we, again, if the way to do that is let's find a way that everybody can work from home and everybody can be in the office and still add flexibility, but not have total flexibility, it's still better. We're 2 years into it, Jay, but like how many decades were we conditioned that we had to work one way? So really, like how long is it going to take us to figure out, kind of a better way or a newer way to do this as well? I think it can be really difficult. So yeah, we'll have Cam put in the article, the HBR article. There's actually like a 5-minute video that really explains much of, kind of the findings of all of this, which I think is pretty fascinating. And I think every executive should probably pay attention to. If we're in HR, we should be sending, these are the articles we send up the chain, right? To say, hey, understand like this, there might be a better way to do this, or just things for them to watch out. Last topic, before we get you out of here. I was on a phone call this week, Jay, and somebody said, well, I don't want to get blacklisted. And it was about leaving. I think we were trying to talk a person into leaving their current job sooner than like their normal notice, right? To start, because we have a project that was really, kind of urgent, whatever it might be. And I kind of, I totally understood, right? And we was like, nope, you should, you got to take care of your career and do what you got to do. But there's a part of me that kind of chuckled because I'm like, we don't really have a blacklist. There's no, HR doesn't have a little black book or a shared document on SharePoint that we put people's names into. Like that never happens. But personally, I have a blacklist. I have a blacklist of people who didn't show up for interviews or left and didn't, like I have a personal blacklist, and I'll carry that with me the rest of my life from company to company. But we never have like a giant like industry blacklist, right?
I mean, it's like the idea, like kind of related growing up of like something is going to go in your permanent file. Like there's this permanent file that that like has this permanent record of everything from childhood to now. And we consult that before we make decisions. The other thing that's kind of funny about it, like, haha, maybe not, is like it makes me really think sometimes that people think HR has like this real magic voodoo power over everything where like we've got this blacklist, we're going to control like who's in, who's out. I mean, I don't know that most companies are effectively using their applicant tracking systems like as is. So to have like data in an ATS for something like that, it's not happening. But maybe
we definitely have some people in our ATSs that have been tagged "don't use."
Well, I was gonna say, like, I don't know, maybe it's like someone heard somewhere along the way, oh, like a person's been marked as like not eligible for rehire,
blackballed.
And so like they think it translates to the candidate side of things, but no one is like that. That's not happening on the candidate side. People, come on.
So you have a personal blacklist though, right?
I have a personal blacklist, not of people I wouldn't hire, but of like people I just don't want to be friends with. Like, you guys, I hold grudges, so.
Yeah. Well, we all have some of that, right? I do think like some of this potentially, like I'm a big fan of blockchain as in, like you said, your permanent record, right? I would love to have a permanent record, employment record follow me around from employer to employer. Because again, I value, the work I've done and the accomplishments. And I think that it would be a positive thing for me. There's a lot of people that if that came to fruition, like they would be like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened in my life. Now you can know the truth about me,
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, I feel that way for myself. There are things that I would like to leave in the past where I'm like, well, maybe I didn't use my best judgment there. I was a little, wet behind the ears or whatever it might be. So I don't know about that. You are a brave person to have a blockchain,
I just have a feeling like long-term a blockchain kind of employment record or your permanent record, like from high school, kind of thing, or your, that file that you show of your kids, like when they were, 4 and then you come in at like 8th grade and you're like, you're seeing notes from some teacher, like Timmy, like, is a little idiot, or whatever. You're like, oh my God, they thought of that of me.
That makes me so sad. No, because like we all grow and evolve as people, right? Which is why I shouldn't hold grudges.
You're right.
Others.
No, and there's a piece. You're exactly right, because there's a piece of that. You're basically saying if you ever made one mistake, it's going to follow you around forever, and that becomes problematic in itself. But maybe there's a way within that blockchain you can kind of mitigate that or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. But I have a feeling like people would be much more conscious about what they do regarding their employment if they knew that was going to be in their permanent record, right? If they knew potentially that would get them blacklisted or whatever. There's also like definitely a technology play here where, and again, I don't even know the legalities of this. This is just kind of like spitballing, brainstorming, which is like blacklisted.com, where employers can go in and just put in people that have screwed them, how like many lawsuits would happen from that. But
the flip side though of like that permanent record though, and us being like very cognizant of like, oh my God, this thing's going to follow me around. Like that will stifle people's risk taking, right? Like it's like, oh, I can't make a mistake. It's going to follow me around. So that's like that's the downside of that.
Well, it's probably the reason that it'll never happen, right? Like I know Workday, on a good way, is allows people to take their work like record and performance from one Workday client to the next, right? So if you're working for a Workday company and then you go to another Workday company, you can actually transfer some of that stuff. I mean, they're working towards that. Like it's kind of like a pseudo blockchain, from that standpoint. And maybe a faster way to check references, employment history, stuff like that. Right. So they've been working on, is that something that employees would value? Employers for sure would value that. Just in terms of onboarding and background checking, all that stuff, and make it so much faster and easier. Like if let's say you worked at an employer, like let's say you went to work for, I don't even know, Google, right? And then you were there for a year and they'd already checked your background and references and all this stuff. And then you go to work for somebody else and you can transfer that to, from one employer to the next. It would just make it that much simpler for you to onboard, right? And that much faster. I mean, sometimes right now, especially like in defense contractors, we're waiting like months to get through the background stuff. Like it's been so hard right now. So anything that could kind of make that a little bit faster. Anyways,
that's true.
So make sure you don't get blacklisted by JLee or I, because we carry that stuff with us like a bad habit. And but for the person that that thought they were going to get blacklisted, I think that's funny, because we don't actually have like a HR blacklist, but we have personal blacklists for sure. All right, Jay. Next week we'll have Katie back. We think, unless one of us goes into, Katie could still come back, but we might be in COVID protocols, but we'll have the three of us. So for Jessica Lee, the COVID protocol, Chris Dunn, and myself, this is HR Famous. We are out.